Hello there, folks. We have, as you see, another friend with us, Jason Wellington. I think I said that right. And no, Wethington. I didn't say it right. Yeah, I can't. I had to lean closer to my computer to see how it was spelled. But anyway, the title for this video is An Old Idea for a New World, and we've already started a bit of a blurb. And it goes like this. My friend Steve Hart introduced me to a friend of his, again, Jason, who has traveled to India and Nepal. One of the titles he suggested for this talk, though a bit long, is Fully Automatic Stupidity, or How I Learned to Trust Myself. His central theme is the importance of trust. Please take it away, Jason.
Thanks, Ron. It's really awesome to be here. It's great to connect with you, and I'm so glad that, I'm here. It's really, really, really nice. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. We were talking a little bit before about the journey here and what led me to what I want to talk about today. And it really started about 10 years ago. I was kind of alluding to this story a little bit, and you were like, no, hold on.
Yeah, let's record it.
Yes, exactly. So I was in the Dominican Republic. I was a professional magician by trade at the time. That was my career. I'd been performing magic for about 20 years all over the world, and was in the Dominican Republic. I was part of a super team of magicians, and had I use the word now fascinating, but it was also horrific at the time. It was a crazy week for us. One of my friends had his head set on fire by a priest practicing Santeria, basically island voodoo, in an effort to show that his magic was stronger than my friend's magic. And over the course of that week, I had begun to have some very strange experiences, lots of questions and emotions arising within me, and things like, what the hell are you thinking, and what are you doing? And some of those questions that we have.
When you lean forward like that, you're cutting your top of your head.
Okay. I'll try not to. I tend to move and talk with my hands, so I apologize already for that. But so I was having the only way I can describe it is a transcendental moment on a beach in the Dominican Republic. I got back to the United States and gave away everything that I owned. I walked away. I had, this convertible sports car, was traveling the world doing magic, and a house, and just walked away from it all, basically. And it was during that time that this image of going to India, of traveling to India, came about for me. And it took, over the course of 7 to 8 years after that, when I was able to go to Nepal and India, and I had the same exact experience to get there. I was living in Portland, Oregon. I had written a book here in Florida, all about magic. And a friend called me up and said, hey, you should come to Portland. It's a really great place. And I thought, I've never been there. And one of the things that I've learned along this journey is that the universe speaks. And when it does, you should listen. And I have another philosophy of always saying yes and then sort of figuring things out on the backside of it. So I ended up in Portland, Oregon, and after a year there, had met this beautiful woman. We were living together, and one of the very first times that I'd met her, we were talking about traveling, and we had one of those synchronistic moments where we were supposed to name the place that we wanted to go to the most, and simultaneously we both said India. So we thought, this is supposed to happen. So we sold everything that we had around May of this year, and left Portland, Oregon, and went on an adventure through India into Nepal, and then ended up in Bangkok and Thailand before we came back to the States. And yeah, over the course of this trip, we would be in different areas, and part of this was about gaining experience of wanting to write another book. Again, I'd had these experiences early on about wanting to go to India, and heard the stories of finding the guru, right? When you start on the spiritual path, you hear the stories of going to India and finding the guru. And I did find the guru. It wasn't the guru that I expected, as it never is.
The guru is G, you are you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's everyone else. I realized that the guru was everyone that I encountered, every situation, all of the experiences that I was gaining while I was on this journey were the guru, were the teacher. And we had some very strange, synchronistic experiences. One of them that comes to mind now is when we were in Nepal, we were doing workaway projects. So we would go to an organic farm in the mountains of Nepal and help a family. Basically, we built greenhouses and planted tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that on their organic farm, helped them milk buffalo and create biofuel from the waste of the animals. And it was a really amazing experience.
I've never milked a buffalo. I have milked a cow.
Yeah, I grew up in Kentucky, so yeah, cattle and being on farms is
my mother's dad and mom had a 20 head dairy farm.
Oh wow, that's
and
beautiful.
A bull.
Nice, that's beautiful.
20 milking cows and a bull.
No, that's that's why I became a magician. That life was not for me.
Well, I never went in that direction either.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a really interesting experience. It was a beautiful experience. And when I ended up in just outside of Kathmandu, I was at an artist hostel, I guess you could call it, artist community, and this beautiful Nepalese man, Rakesh. The very first interaction I had with him, he was laying down on the floor on some pillows, and he looked at me and he said, "What do you know of Stoicism?" I thought, what a strange, odd question for the very first interaction with another human being, and which I thought was interesting, because I felt Stoicism is sort of the Greek version of Buddhism, really, like ultimately understanding that life is suffering. So
you became a Stoic, huh?
in the moment, apparently. He recognized me as not Buddhist, so yeah, it's been this idea, this whole journey has been coming to this realization of trust, and trusting myself, and taking responsibility for that. And I think, at least when I look into the outer world, whatever that is, what I see reflected has not been that. I haven't seen a lot of people taking personal responsibility. I hear them talking about it. I hear them talking about it a lot, but I don't actually see it until I went to places like this community in Nepal, where one morning we were making breakfast, and a person came to the door, and Rakesh said, "Oh, everybody, let's put our dishes down. We're going to go make the road." And we went outside. The Valley of Kathmandu is recovering from a pretty substantial earthquake a couple of years ago. So their roads and everything, that area of the world is kind of a mess. So
bit chaotic.
Very chaotic. Yeah. But really beautiful is, so we built this road, and one of the things I learned, so many things in Nepal. It's just, if any of your viewers, if you've ever been, or if you ever get a chance to go, I highly recommend it. It's an absolutely beautiful country and absolutely beautiful people. And one of the things that Rakesh talked about, he said, we're not poor. We're not poor people. We don't have a lot of money, but we're not poor. Mm. It was a different way of seeing the world, and again, kind of coming to trust yourself and trust the people around you, trust your community. A few years ago, I was working with a think tank here in the United States before I left on my journey. And the think tank centered around the idea that businesses, brands, are in essence cults. They're belief systems, right? They're belief systems that get you to buy into whatever
they're selling.
Whatever it is that they're selling, right? Yeah. And
even if it's an idea or a product.
Yeah, and selling the invisible is an amazing thing. And as a magician,
it's called religion.
Yes. And as a magician, I can appreciate it because, again, it's a beautiful magic trick. And I'm not necessarily down on religion. I'm not down on businesses. I'm not down on the structures that are formed by our beliefs, because I do think that they're symbolic of something deeper within all humanity that's just being expressed and wants to be expressed. So it's difficult for me to go like, I don't like religion, or, I don't like capitalism and things like that, because I see them as expressions of the whole thing. And part of the understanding of that was through this man called Jack Gibb, taking me back to how when I was working with the think tank, I found a white paper of a psychologist called Jack Gibb, and he had created a system of organizational development called TORI, TORI. And it was the aha moment, I guess, in a way for me. I had begun studying things like Jung and Joseph Campbell and Friedrich Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, and I went down that tunnel because I was raised Catholic and realized that God wasn't there, that was the last place I was going to find any sense of what the hell was going on. So I needed to abandon all of that, only to later on realize the beauty in its structure. But on this journey, I found this white paper. A friend of mine actually turned me on to it, and he said, this is a lot of stuff that you talk about, wherever you're getting it, wherever it's coming from and then coming through you. This is a scientist who has systematized this and maybe organized the information in a little bit different way. And it's called TORI. Trust and openness are the foundations of the model, which I thought were interesting because I'd seen this mimicked in a lot of different places. If you Google it, there's not a lot about it. It's really kind of interesting. It's one of those sort of hidden in plain sight. But Jack Gibb was a fascinating guy, and his students talked about him in the words that they used were, he was a magician. He went through life using this system of trust and open communication in all things in his life. And he saw this pattern repeated in all naturally self-organizing systems, which is essentially the universe around us, right? He saw this pattern everywhere. So it begins with trust and open communication. And out of those two concepts flows within the individual the realization of what they are truly, and then leads to interdependence, which allows them to understand the part that they play within the greater whole. And I thought it was a really fascinating idea. And I thought, okay, here's a psychologist, someone who who seems to have his stuff together. And he's teaching this system to his students, and it seems to fit with all of the other things that I had studied. I'm sort of a polymath. I like to study lots of different things because I wanted to understand what this place was from a lot of different perspectives. And I thought that was the best way to understand it. Not holding any of them is true.
That's the only way to get a comprehension of the bigger picture.
Yeah. And what I found was fascinating was I was reading books like, for example, like through Joseph Campbell, I found the Upanishads, and through Carl Jung and magic, I found books on alchemy, and through Jung, I found quantum physics and science. And I started reading these books almost simultaneously, and was just overwhelmed and blown away that they were literally talking about the same things, only in different languages. And I thought, this is really almost like a Rosetta Stone kind of thing. Like, oh, here it is. It's all of them speaking the same truth, just from slightly different angles. And I thought that was really beautiful. And for me, and I don't know why, it's one of those things where I sort of have put away why and just recognizing that it is. But this concept of Tory really spoke to me in its simplicity, because it took things like, I had been studying like A Course in Miracles, and had gone into Buddhism, had searched through nihilism and solipsism and all of these different philosophies and concepts. And again, at the very bottom of all of them, the concepts of trust and openness were fundamental to being, basically. And I thought, what the hell? I'm gonna try an experiment. I'm gonna put this to the test and see if I die, basically. And I'm still here, so it seems to be working pretty nicely. And along the way, I've learned. It's funny because I laugh all the time. I was saying this the other day. I met up with our mutual friend Steve, and I find it's the same lesson over and over and over again. And every single time it appears in its new form, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the magic trick that it is. It's such a beautiful thing. But yeah, so essentially, I encourage, it's one of those things too, when I talk to other people, when I talk about trust and really trusting, and you read some of the stories of people that have gone, and I'm not the first one, right? Other people have gone on these journeys. Other people have put these concepts into action, and personal experience is the only thing. I can read books and I can listen to other people talk, but personal experience, really putting things into action, is for me really what it's all about. And trust and openness, and always coming from there in every single moment. It's hard and it's scary. It's not easy. It's not without tears. It's not without gnashing of teeth. It's not without frustration. But always, in every situation, again and again and again, trust and open communication seem to open the doors of the universe. It's a beautiful and mysterious thing.
What do you think about the people that say only focus on positive things and not negative things?
That's
I mean,
bullshit.
you've probably come across that more than once, as I have.
And it's one of those things. And again, this is just my philosophy of how I try to understand concepts. You have to bring them in and act as if you believe it with every fiber of your being, and see what happens, see what comes back. And I think it's a beautiful notion but it's a beautiful, it's like in magic, we talk about the big lie. The one that's the hardest to see is the one that you tell yourself, right? It's the one that we tell ourselves. And if you can convince your audience to lie to themselves, they're never going to figure out the magic trick. And I think that's one of my issues, and one of the reasons why I realized, like, all of these belief systems, there's this great metaphor about belief systems are like ladders, or the metaphor that I use, it's like scaffolding of a building, right? You use the scaffold to build the building. You don't leave it up so that it obscures the beauty of the building. You bring it down so that the underlying structure is revealed, right? And I feel like, and I'll just put that into the box of the new age positivity thinking and happiness thinking. I don't think that this is about being happy, and I don't think it's about always being positive. I don't think anything about this experience suggests it. And I think all of the old books say it pretty explicitly as well. That this is, like,
yeah, to me, truth and trust go along with each other. The truth is not an abstract thing. It's a subjective thing, because I've noticed in my own life, my core truth stays the same, but other truths around the core truth vacillate.
Yes. Yeah. Change is the only constant, right?
To use a cliche. Yeah.
Exactly. But and that's what I found with like, even with cliches, and I try to steer clear of them, but they've stuck around for a reason. It's like religion. It's been around for a really long time. It's not arbitrary that it's here. Again, that structure means something, I feel. I do have this deep, it's a deep expression within human beings, and I'm fascinated by those things, cliches and symbols that have, stood the test of time and still speak to us today. I'm fascinated about that stuff. And trust and truth are two of these ideas that really do. And it's expressed, like, if you just type in trust into Google, you get all kinds of interesting feedback. And in today's modern world, most of it revolves around this idea of trust theory within information exchange. But I find that even
financial trusts.
Exactly, which is a misconception. I speak about trust a lot, and people are like, wait, financial trusts? Because their minds are all about consumed by money and the God that creates for us.
Well, I believe that money is at the root of most deceptions.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? Like, I'm fascinated by money, and I understand it at a visceral level, that it's an expression. It's an expression of energy. It's an expression of value, but that the value that it expresses is ultimately the human being behind it.
Did you ever, I've talked about it in some of my videos, but did you ever hear how money came into being? Or a allegory about the possibility of how it came into being?
I've heard many stories from many mouths, and I'm always interested to hear more. I'll have to check it out if you can.
I'll just briefly summarize it in a minute or so. And that is that everyone was a slave, and there were these beings that were the rulers over all of the humans. Humans were the slaves. And one of the masters went into prison to find out what the slaves were thinking, and the slaves were ready to rebel. And so he went out, and when he came out, he says, I've got good news for you all. You're not slaves anymore, you're free. We're going to pay you for doing the same thing that they were doing before, but now they're getting paid for it, so they don't think of themselves as slaves.
Right. That makes total sense. It really does. It makes total sense. And that's about the only thing that I can figure, because it really, as we were talking before we started recording, it's an absurd world that we live in. And when you start seeing through a lot of the illusions that we've been sold throughout the years,
the paradoxes,
you cry and you laugh boisterously at the same time. It's a beautiful and horrific thing that we have created for ourselves. It's yeah, I don't know. It is a strange and absurd place, but money is definitely one of those things. And it was in the beginning of my journey, and again, understanding trust, I wanted, and I don't know why, again, like to transcend that concept of money. How do we
Well, you
transcend?
obviously did when you gave everything away in that period of your life.
Yeah, and it is, I will say this, it is difficult to exist in this place and not use it as a tool,
Absolutely.
right?
Is
But
the lady that you went to India with, is she still in your world?
she is, yeah. She actually just went back to Portland. She is an amazing chef. We met while we were creating a pop-up dining experience in Portland. She was the head chef, created this beautiful artist. She's an artist with food. She creates edible pieces of art on a table.
Wow.
She's really amazing. So she like I said, we'd been on the road since May. She'd never been to Florida before, so we came here. She had the reason why we cut our trip short by about 4 months. She got a really bad parasitic infection while we were
Oh,
traveling through
wow.
India into the. We were on a trek in the Himalaya mountains, and basically, for a week she lived off of toast in the mountains and never really fully recovered and ended up having to be hospitalized in Bangkok. And
Oh, boy.
but she's better now. She's healing. And she's back in Portland, helping to open a restaurant there. So they just had their opening weekend this past weekend. So yeah, she's still in my life, and I'm planning to join her in Portland in January. I can only take about half of a Portland winter.
Well, in Florida, we don't really get much of winter, and that's good by
It's
me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I moved to Florida at the start of the millennium. Actually, I moved here in at the end of '99, early 2000, and have lived on and off in Florida. I lived in the Dominican Republic, moved to Las Vegas to start a couple of companies there, bounced around the world for a little bit. So yeah, um, I love Florida. I always find my way back here somehow. It's a it's a nice place to sit and rest in.
Well, in
Uh,
Portland, it rains a lot, or at least I'm told that up in that northwestern part of the U.S., that the continental states, there's a lot of rain.
yeah, it gets you get used to it where it, it pretty much rains all the time. The slight rain that you get, you almost, it's like white noise. It's there, but it's really not. You just go about your day. It really is a beautiful place. Again, I encourage uh, anyone who feels the urge to go there to visit, because it really is an interesting place. It's like everywhere else, beautiful despite the people, but it is a beautiful place, and the people there. All joking aside, the people are beautiful, but they
There's
suffer
beautiful people everywhere, and ones that
everywhere.
aren't, and I'm not talking about physical beauty.
No. No,
But
exactly. It's
that exists also.
yes, everywhere. That was one of the things that we learned on the journey. We traveled through the north of India. We started in Delhi, New Delhi, made our way up into Kashmir and Jammu, and we went down to Amritsar, which is the seat of the Sikh holy religion, uh, and then over to Varanasi, which is sort of the head or the shoulders of the body of the temple complex of Hinduism. It's kind of originates. There's a place in Nepal we visited that mimics it. It's very similar in style and configuration, where they have the cremation ceremonies on the river, and um, that was one of the things that we learned everywhere we went. there's beautiful people and there's not so beautiful people.
Right.
And
But
no
we're
one
going to need
seems
to
know
wrap
what's going
this
on.
one up
Yeah.
for this time, and
Yeah, no
we,
worries.
if we'll talk after we kill the video. It's still recording right now, but we have reached our 30-minute mark.
Oh, beautiful.
And I try to limit most of the conversations to around 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
So thank you
there. Yeah.
very much for taking the time to talk with us. And Jason, look forward to meeting you sometime. Maybe I'll go to one of Steve's coffee talks.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
And we'll get a chance to meet face to face.
Absolutely. So, thanks again. This was really awesome. I had a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you. And as I always say, namaste.
Namaste.
I'm sure you've heard that in India.
In Nepal, it was everywhere. It was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.